Hello again. Guess what? Same day, 2 seconds later, new video. Here we go. You have a printout there that I've put up, and I want to read through it with you that I have either given to you or else it is a link online that you're going to follow along with. So, you know, I'm with Richie, hear me roar, love you some Father Richie. And he also talks about myths and mythology. And so right now I'm going to start reading on Thursday, October 8th, 2015. I'm not going back in time. That is when he wrote this, sorry. So it says, you need a big storyline. In his book, Myth, Gods, Heroes, and Saviors, Leonard Baylis, writes, the supreme achievement of the self is to find an insight that connects together the events, dreams, and relationships that make up our existence. I'm going to read that one more time. The supreme achievement of the self is to find an insight that connects together the events, dreams, and relationships that make up our existence. If there is no storyline, no integrating images that define who you are, or that give your life meaning or direction, you just won't be happy. That's a deep truth. If there's no storyline, no integrating images that define who you are, or that give your life meaning or direction, you just won't be happy. It was probably Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell who most developed this idea for our generation of Western rationalists, where everything is just this important intelligence in the mind. That's not in there. That was me. Who had thought that myth meant not true, when in fact the older meaning of myth is precisely always true. If it's true one place. Jung goes so far as to say that transformation only happens in the presence of story, myth, and image, not mere mental concepts. A great story pulls you inside of a universal story, and it lodges in unconsciousness where it is not subject to the brutalities of your intellect or will, as Thomas Merton might say. So where you're not analysis paralysis, it's not stuck up all in the head, it's something that's a lived experience. From that hidden place, you are healed. For Christians, the map of Jesus' life is the map of every man and every woman, divine conception, ordinary life, betrayal, abandonment, rejection, crucifixion, resurrection, and ascension. In the end, it all comes full circle and we return where we started, but now transformed. Jung saw this basic pattern repeated itself in every human life, and he called it the Christ archetype, an almost perfect map of the whole journey of human transformation. Jung's notion of archetype or ruling image can help us understand this corporate personality of a universal stand-in that Jesus was meant to be, meaning looking at Jesus, that in how to enter our, so if you're looking at, so we've got the story of Jesus, the actual historical Jesus, but then you have these deeper myths, but like it's the story he goes through that he lives, but these deep connected lessons that are also true for us. Like, if you want to rise, you must enter your pain with forgiving love and go through it, right? Those depths within that. A part of a next reading says, which is also from Father Richie, each human has a de facto worldview that determines what is important and what is not important to us. And we largely operate unconsciously until we are awakened from our sleep. Worldview usually has a symbolic story to hold them together, such as Honest Abe chopping wood in Kentucky and educating himself in Illinois. Clever myths like this become a standing and effective metaphor for the American worldview of self-determination, hard work, and achievement. Whether they are exact historical truths is not even important. We want and need them to be true, and that's okay. Such myths proceed from deep and collective unconscious of humanity. Our myths are stories of images that are not always true in particular, but they entirely true in general. Not always true in particular, but entirely true in general. They are usually not historical facts, but invariably they are spiritual genius. They hold life and death, the explainable and the unexplainable together as one. They hold together the paradoxes that the rational mind cannot process by itself. Myths, as do good poems and art, make unclear and confused emotions brilliantly clear and even life-changing. Myths are true basically because they work. A sacred myth keeps people healthy, happy, and whole, even inside of their pain. They give deep meaning and pull us into deep time, which encompasses all time, past and future, geological and chronological, and not just our little time or culture. Such stories are the very food of the soul. When we start fairy tales with lines like long ago in a faraway land, we are reaching for deep time truth. We Catholics used to say that the end of our Latin prayers, I don't know how to speak Latin, per omnia specula sculus, blah, 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 loosely translated as through all ages of ages. Somehow time orients the psyche, gives ultimate perspective, realigns us, grounds us, and thus heals us. We belong to a mystery far grander than our little selves and our little time. Great storytellers and spiritual teachers have always known this. The postmodern world has rejected most myths except two, and these are especially lethal for the soul and for the poor and for the future. Myth number one is I produce, therefore I am. And number two, and the thing is, sometimes there's the toxic myths as well, the ones that don't feed the soul. And the second one is I consume, therefore I am. This will never work for the soul. But we, believers and clergy included, have drunk this new, fairly new version of this Kool-Aid. So the idea of what are the myths, what are the stories that we're living, what are the things that we're believing, what happens to us when we believe them? Does it help us bring us to life? Does it help us rise, or does it keep us stuck? This idea of myth and story and how we're narrating our lives. So the story of Jesus, of death and resurrection, is so powerful and so beautiful because death and that whole stories within the story of Jesus brings life and newness and forgiveness and beauty, right? It's very powerful and soul-fulfilling story. Truth, deep, deep truth. And then another little quote here that says, I hope you will go out and let stories, that is life, happen to you, and that you will work with these stories from your life. Water them with your blood and tears and your laughter till they bloom, till you yourself burst into bloom. So this idea of story, this idea of myth, these characters of tricksters, of all of these different ways of being, they mirror life and what's happening to us and help us enter into a deeper understanding. So, ladies and gentlemen, and brothers and sisters, what are the stories that you are creating within your life? What are the myths that you are believing or listening to? Start really understanding how you hold the pen of your life and how you'll respond and all that jazz. And let's dive into this together. All right. Peace.